Okay, we've got an update on the aliens attacking Peru situation. We've got Joe Rogan talking about aliens turning people into stone. Bob Bigelow tells us the real reason he sold Skinwalker Ranch, and more. It's time for another UFO news roundup, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, so I've been fascinated by the attack on Peru situation. The aliens, or whatever they are, attacking people in Peru. What is the real deal there? We have photos of beings. We have video of beings. We have also video of UFOs flying around, because apparently these 7-foot-tall, silver-suited beings with the yellow eyes would fly off in these UFOs after getting shot at to no effect. But they would just jet off in their UFOs, and there's actually video of one of these UFOs. And there are other photos and videos as well. I've covered a few of them. There's one that I think is a little too good to be true that I haven't covered. But so what's going on now? Well, now we have the miner and jetpack story that is being floated around. The Scooby-Doo miners, it was all along just guys in masks and jetpacks terrorizing the locals to get access to their gold. Just like a Scooby-Doo villain. It's just, a ridiculous, over-the-top, stupid story that is what they expect us to buy. And to back up this crazy story, they got this poor local girl to hold up a photo of a guy in a jetpack. But as the Nerd Report so accurately reports, it's a bunch of BS. Check this out.
But wait a minute. Isn't that this? From a NASCAR race or something? Let's look. Wait, is that? Let me pause it. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Boom, there it is. So I think that is either the same guy in the same day, or else a very similar, exercise of this jetpack technology that was taken and utilized by the control group or whoever. And this girl was asked to pose with this photo. Maybe it was the local authorities that asked, after pressure was put on them to do so. Who knows? But the fact remains that that photo was likely taken from either this NASCAR event or a similar event. And if that photo was staged, then I think we can safely assume that the miners and jetpack story is all a bunch of BS, as it seemed to be on its surface anyway. Well, let's see what Ben Hansen has to say. He's a great researcher, a great ufologist, and he has done some digging into this incident. Let's hear his words.
He's like one of the best UFO investigators out there, and he was one of the first people to throw cold water on all of this. So what was your first clue, Ben? You were so quick with your assessment.
Well, thanks for teeing me up for such high expectations, first of all. So what's really weird about this, the whole thing is weird. Okay, so let's try to unpack this a little bit. The events, a lot of the events that are being reported are true. We have video of the authorities showing up. We have video of the villagers running out into the jungle shooting at something. Okay, but after the investigation, what they come out with is they say that the prosecutor says that they believe the police investigation summarizes that these were miners protecting gold, okay, with jetpacks, that they're flying around on jetpacks with hoods and masks and glowing something and going around cutting people's throats. So let that sit just for a second. It really sounds like an episode of Scooby-Doo where, Mr. Withers puts on a goblin mask and is trying to protect his gold. It is almost far-fetched as the fact that the villagers believe these are 7-foot aliens.
Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNation.
So there you go. Ben Hansen thinks that 7-foot aliens are far-fetched, but the miner story is just as far-fetched. But I don't think that 7-foot aliens are that far-fetched. I mean, we've got the beings on camera, or at least some beings on camera during this series of incidents. And those were not 7-foot tall guys in suits. Those are more gray types or mantid types. It's unclear to me exactly who or what they were, or if they, were part of the group that was terrorizing the locals, or there for some other purpose, maybe to observe or even to stop the guys that were terrorizing the locals. Who knows? What we really need is some experiencers or people with abilities that are able to communicate with these beings to go down there and see what is going on, or else to establish a telepathic communication or something with some entities that have some involvement or knowledge of what is going on, and find out just what is going on. Failing that, we need a team of really good, credible remote viewers to see what they can come up with. And it's frustrating to me that now that the control group seems to have stepped in and is spreading false information, I'm not sure how much more information we're going to get from this story now that they've come in and clamped down and probably shut a lot of people up, and now they're spreading false information. It seems to me that, unfortunately, a veil of secrecy is descending upon Peru, and the amount of information we're going to get out of these series of incidents going forward is probably going to be a lot smaller than we would like. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for the next shoe to drop in Peru, let's hear Joe Rogan's crazy story about aliens turning people into stone.
That these guys supposedly shot at a low-flying spaceship. Look at it. According to the KGB materials, a quite low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. It fell to Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonies by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply and then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles.
Poles.
Yeah, only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived.
No shit.
The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different from that of limestone. Oh my God.
It turned them into limestone.
Turned them literally into limestone.
And this is...
That is insane. Aliens turning soldiers into limestone. It doesn't appear to have been deliberate, just a part of this exposure to this light, potentially. Or maybe it was deliberate. I don't know. But if it was deliberate, I would think that being under the shade probably wouldn't have protected them. So I think this was probably more accidental. But let me know what you think, guys. What do you think about this crazy story in general? From the KGB, apparently. And, what else can you say about a crazy story about aliens turning people into stone? At any rate, this story sounds weird enough to be true. I mean, the aliens coalescing into an orb or something, and a great light coming out of it. That just sounds so fantastic that I can't believe it was fabricated. I believe this was probably true, or at least somebody thinks it was true. Arguments against this story being true are A, I've never heard of anybody being turned to stone before, except in the Bible. In all the alien research I've done, or UFO non-human research I've done, I've never heard of a similar account before. But at the same time, the lore is littered with one-off accounts. So that doesn't really mean anything. I've also never heard of beings joining into one being before. That's a new one on me. But again, the lore is littered with one-off incidents, so that doesn't mean anything either. But those are possible, downsides to this story, just because of the singular nature of this incident. But anyway, apparently this is a KGB file that was released or smuggled out, and this is actually coming to us from the CIA. So, the CIA has long spread disinformation about the phenomenon, and they have, seem to have some sort of connection to the UFO control group. And that's putting it mildly. So, could this be disinformation put out by the CIA or disinformation put out by the KGB? Who knows, guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, but why did Bob Bigelow sell Skinwalker Ranch? I am fascinated by Skinwalker Ranch. I just think it is just amazing. It is the real-life Twilight Zone. I love the Twilight Zone. I love Skinwalker Ranch. I would not want to live there. I would love to take a visit. But there's some spooky stuff going on there. Poltergeist activity, portals, cryptids, aliens, you name it, it's got it. So why did Bob sell it after studying it for 20 years? Well, he talks a little bit about how his wife was dying and he was her caregiver, and how his attention was also distracted by his aerospace company. But there is another critical reason why he chose to sell it.
I think it is, we weren't too sure what else we should do with it. And we kept having these demonstrations and so forth. But we didn't particularly want to respond to, you want to come over to our side? So, well, no, wait a second. What does that entail? We're not sure about that. No, no, all in good time.
You mean you felt like there was an invitation?
Well, we didn't want it to get to that point. How much do you try to communicate, and then things are set up more and more and more and more suggestive and so on. You don't want what could happen or anything like that. So, and because a lot of things that we were doing shouldn't have succeeded. So we had some kind of a rapport going on, right? So we were getting to know you, right? Getting to know all about you. Yeah. So we weren't in the dating frame of mind yet. We were just trying to understand the who and the parameters. And we have nothing to do with control. We have nothing to do with stopping you from anything, or, we try to be as much in harmony as we can. And, my philosophy for the other side is, I think, really boils down to two things. Stop asking what they can do for me. I want to know, what can I do for the other side? That's number one. Is there something or some things I can do for the other side that's meaningful? And the second is, what advice and wisdom can you offer us as to how should we operate and manage our institute, BIX? What can we? So I'm trying to get advice from the other side, and they could say, we've been trying to tell you that's what all these hunches are for, all this intuition for that you've been ignoring. We've been pounding on your door, just like the story about God and the guy on the roof of his house. And
so there you go. You can watch the full interview for a lot more. It's a great interview. I just eat up anything Robert Bigelow says. He's a really interesting cat. But there's a lot to unpack in what he just revealed, that he and the team felt like they were in a relationship of sorts with the phenomenon. They were getting to know the phenomenon. The phenomenon was getting to know them, giving them hunches, allowing demonstrations and experiments to work that should not have worked. And they were in this interesting getting to know you phase. And there was a rapport building amongst them. And it was possibly entering the dating phase. When the beings or whoever was going to beckon them across the veil. and they were going to kick it up a notch, go to second base or third base. I don't know. I don't know what base we're talking about, Rob, but this is a wonderful analogy and a really interesting way to look at it. And it is really interesting that Bob Bigelow himself looks at it in this way. I also really like his phrasing of the other side, because sometimes when I talk about looking at alien abductions or near-death experiences, I will say both are great ways to peek beyond the veil. That is the forbidden knowledge, right? People who die have experiences and come back and tell us what is on the other side. That information is normally forbidden to us. We are not normally given access to that sort of information, just like we are not given access to what goes on during alien abductions, many of which take place seemingly in a different reality. Experiencers like Whitley Strieber and Deep Prasad and many others, when they are taken by the beings, talk about being taken to a deeper level of reality, sometimes a place that seems to exist outside of time and space. So could that be part of the same set of dimensions or realities that the near-death experiencers go to as well? An interesting question. So I really resonate with Bob Bigelow's phrasing of the other side, because as I always like to say, I don't just look at the UFO phenomenon, I look at the greater phenomenon, of which the UFO phenomenon is a subset. UFO phenomenon is inextricably linked with poltergeist and portals and cryptids and spirituality and all sorts of other weird, crazy stuff. And that's part of what makes it so fascinating to me personally. So I like to use the phrase the greater phenomenon, but Bob Bigelow likes to use the other side. And I like that too. I also really like that he wanted to do something for the other side. Instead of saying, well, what can I get out of this? He's like, how can I help the other side? I thought that was really interesting. And could that be something to do with why he has developed this consciousness studies program and is, trying to prove the existence of the other side in spiritual terms? And indeed, the fellow he's sitting across from, Jeffrey Mishlove, won that contest with a brilliant essay and a substantial amount of money too. Okay, getting back to Peru just for a second. I didn't include this in the earlier part because I'm not sure if this really has anything to do with anything alien, but it's worth noting. U.S. troops will stay in Peru until December, bringing special forces and Air Force planes to integrate combat interoperability, and I got that right, and disaster response training, in addition to medical exchanges, training, and aid in construction projects. So is that the real reason, or is it because there's an alien attack? I don't know, but it sure is interesting, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is this simply a military training exercise, or is this something more? Meanwhile, Ross Coulthart reiterates that Congress has known about David Grush and these UFO reverse engineering and crash retrieval projects for a couple of years.
What people don't understand, and I feel like a scratchy record going on and on about it, is that the simple fact is Congress already has the evidence. Mr. Grush and other witnesses over the past 2 years have given evidence in secret to the Intelligence Oversight Committees of Congress. They've told Congress already the names, dates, places, locations, code names, all of the details of the alleged crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. The information's also been provided to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. One of the bullshit claims that's circulating, almost certainly Defence or Intelligence Service disinformation at the moment on social media, one of the bullshit claims is that Mr. Grush's reprisal complaint that was upheld by the Inspector General was only an upholding of his allegations about reprisals. It's not. I've double-checked this with Mr. Grush this morning. The Inspector General of the Intelligence Community heard Mr. Grush's complaint about reprisal and harassment for what he said was his revelations of an illegal attempt to circumvent congressional oversight. And in order to investigate that illegal circumvention of congressional oversight, the Inspector General heard Mr. Grush's allegations about the crash retrieval program and the reverse engineering program. He then called first-hand witnesses from the legacy retrieval program. Those people have given evidence under oath to the Inspector General. That's why this is so important. The idea that
you tell him, Ross. So that is really interesting, and I'm glad that he clued us in on that. I'm a little unclear on the timeline, honestly, because he has mentioned, and others have mentioned, this 2-year figure before the Congress has known about this for 2 years. And I believe that is the case. However, if that is true, then David Grush may have testified multiple times to Congress, to the intelligence committees, and that may also be true, because I do think that the date that we know about that he testified to the intel committees was, or at least one of them, was December in 2022. So that would mean that that was an additional debriefing or something that he gave them after his initial hearing with them 2 years ago. In any case, Congress has known about UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs, if indeed this is the first time they're hearing of this, for at least 2 years. So why did Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand not go out, bring a live press conference with them, and stand atop a UFO 2 years ago? They had that ability. Why didn't they? Is it simply because Congress moves slowly and, it doesn't work like that? Or is there some other agenda at play here? I don't know which one it is, but let me know which one you think it is in the comments below. Okay, speaking of Ross, there has been this emblem that's been going around, and there's kind of a story around this emblem. I haven't known quite what to make of it all. There's been some controversy around this. Is this really an emblem of the control group? What is going on? So I'm just going to read this tweet. So the patch that Ross Coulthart displayed in Australia and stated it was part of a USAF reverse engineering Area 51 program, and the patch I said was from a weather squadron. Well, it turns out that I was wrong, and Coulthart may have been closer to being right. Okay? Very magnanimous of Osiris. It now appears, I cannot provide a source, that the patch is actually belongs to the Department of Energy. So this patch belongs to the Department of Energy, according to Osiris. And, is that a valid source? I don't know. But it is very interesting that Ross has brought this patch out as an emblem of the UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering project, and that it is possibly associated with the Department of Energy, which has a long-standing connection to the black budget UFO world. Last but not least, we have a new UFO video that's being circulated. Now, it's so frustrating with UFO videos because you just never know these days. Unless you know their provenance, it's just really hard to know if they're legit or not. If it's from Jeremy Corbell or somebody like that, I'm going to give it a lot more weight. Now, if it's from somebody that's very public on social media, that's just living a normal life, and that you can verify they're a real person and that they're not, an employee of the Department of Energy or somebody, then you can, take it with a little more weight. Of course, if they're a special effects guru or something like that, well, that's something you can find out if they're public on social media, what their job is, what their hobbies are. And you can kind of validate whether they're a legit source or not. I haven't done much research into this particular source, but this video has been going around, and many people think this is legitimate. It's certainly interesting. Got some strange objects pulsing in the sky. Not doing a lot of moving, but what they're doing is certainly interesting. There you go. There you go. We got multiple objects circling in the sky. It looks like a legitimate video. It really does. They are circling and they are pulsing. And they are potentially even allowing themselves to be filmed intentionally, which is the case with many experiencers. Many people are summoned telepathically or otherwise to go out of their homes and begin filming. And, Bob Bigelow himself just talked about how there was a relationship that was formed between him and the other members of the team in the phenomenon, and that it seemed to be encouraging their efforts at communication and studying it to some extent. Obviously, it didn't reveal all its secrets, but it was actually enabling their own experiments and working with them. It takes two to dance, and it was dancing. So, is the UFO phenomenon dancing for these people taking this video? Is it dancing for so many people that get photos and videos of the phenomenon? Does the phenomenon want us to know about it, and is it trying to raise our consciousness so that we can get to the next level of understanding so that we can begin dating, as Bob Bigelow might say? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you have enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you could share this video on social media, that would be super helpful. I would really appreciate it. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, there's a PayPal button below. A one-time donation would be terrific. Or you could simply become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And there are plenty of other videos to check out on the channel. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.